Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine keeps spilling over into Russian territory. Officials in Russia now blaming Ukraine for drone attacks and shelling in several regions today. And that includes the map there you can see highlight Belgorod. That is near, as you can see, near the border. Attacks appear to be on the rise there ever since a group of Russian nationals aligned with Ukraine claimed to have launched an assault on their own country. That's a little more than a week ago. Ukraine has largely stayed quiet about these attacks without claiming direct responsibility. But a top aide to Ukraine's president says the gates of war have opened on Russian territory. Let's go straight to CNN's Sam Khaili in Kharkiv. And Sam, yesterday on the show, you told me that with these cross-borders attacks, which are now becoming, I think it's fair to say, more systematic, we could be seeing a new phase in this war. What could this potentially mean? What risks do you see here, Sam?
Well, I think the risks, as assessed by none other than Vladimir Putin, are really pretty high. And they're exactly the results, in terms of the Ukrainian perspective, that they would want to see, which is reaction from the Kremlin, in which Vladimir Putin has to go onto state TV and at a conference tell his people not to worry, that it's incumbent on the government to steady the ship. This is what he said.
Today, we will deal with the same issues in relation to ensuring the security of Russia, in this case, domestic political security, taking into account the efforts that our ill-wishers are still making and intensifying in order to stir up the situation inside Russia.
Now, stirring up the situation inside Russia is precisely the agenda of this two groups of Russian dissidents that are backed by Ukraine, armed by Ukraine, and travelling in Ukrainian-supplied vehicles. They do also have their own funding streams, they say. And, of course, the ongoing attacks that we've seen in terms of the drone attacks. Since we spoke yesterday, there's been another drone attack on the town of Smolensk, in Smolensk province, quite a long way north of the Ukrainian border. And on top of that, the attacks continue in Belgorod, with the governor there saying that 2,500 people have now been evacuated from villages around, and he was going on a live stream to try to reassure his population. And in watching that live stream, you saw a little bit potentially of why this is also a cyber campaign, with a lot of bogus and rather bizarre questions being asked him, clearly by people trying to undermine his ability to steady the nerves of the Russian people close to the border with Ukraine. Lisa?
Let me ask you this. I mean, I've seen reports today, I know you're coming out of eastern Ukraine, and coming from the Russians here, Sam, about an assault by Chechen units. Is this one of those stories you're going to tell me that we need to be wary of?
Well, the Russians and I think the Ukrainians agree that Chechen special forces have been moved into the battle space not far from Bakhmut. Bakhmut has been, there's supposed to be a relief in place going on more or less now, or concluding more or less now, between the Wagner mercenary group and the regular Russian forces. There are also, again, unverifiable reports coming out of Belgorod that perhaps Russian special forces have been moved there. The suggestion being made by Ukrainians is that they've been moved from the theatre in the east. But again, you're right, Isa. We should take anything the Ukrainians say about what the Russians are up to, unless they have direct proof, with a bit of a pinch of salt.